square volume and it's more fluid. They're going to be like jostling around all over the place. That's more like an oil, okay? So, stacking determines the phase of the fat, which is important, whether it's liquid or solid. Stacked, we say it's solid, tends to be, those fats are solid. Unstacked, they tend to be liquid. So I want you to know why, right? Just be able to think about the structure of the molecules and how they can fit together. Most saturated fats are solid at room temperature. Oops, sorry. Most unsaturated fats are liquid at room temperature. Okay? Yes? Okay. The bad fat. Okay, now unsaturated.
Really quick.
Yes. Make sense? Okay, so saturated fats, because of their no double bond, no kink in the chain, stack them real thick, tight, dense per square area or volume, right? So they're solid. They're going to be more solid. They're thicker. Yes? Okay. Like what?
Oh, Jenga, you know, the like game where you like stack.
Yes.
them?
Yes, the fat stacking. Yes. Next time you're playing Jenga, like, okay, these are saturated fatty acids. Add a little, try a little chink, put a chink one in there. Yeah, it's going to tumble the whole Jenga. It's going to be fluid. I love that analogy. I'm using that. Okay, I'm using that next time. Okay, we got to keep going because we got to get through fast. We're running behind. Bad fat, unsaturated trans fats. Okay, the unsaturated. Now this is where it's going to throw you for a curveball because you're like, I thought unsaturated fats are really like the plant oils. They tend to be the healthier ones. Saturated, more animal fat. Well, we've got this brilliant little thing that was man-made, created, the unsaturated trans fatty acids, aka hydrogenated oils, hydrogen added, hydrogenated oils, are actually super unhealthy. Okay? So 1950s, the thinking was all saturated fats are bad, all unsaturated fats are good, and there was a problem. Only saturated fats were solid at room temperature. Okay, so only saturated fats are solid, but you want to cook in companies and industries and fast food and all these places. You want to cook and use oils, right? But you also don't want those. It's nicer if the oils are a little thicker. Prevents spoiling. It's just easier to sort of do if they're a little bit thicker. So that's why solid fats, like lard, they used to cook with lard. A lot of people just slap that lard in there. Sorry. She threw up in her mouth a little bit right there. But she was like, oh my God, that's gross. Believe it or not, some places still do that. So the thickened, saturated fats are really good for like preventing spoilage and for cooking and making certain things. So industry went, well, okay, we want to get the oils like thicker. We want to have thicker consistency, right? So they don't spoil, so we can use them. They're more versatile. So the solution, they started to artificially saturate fats, hydrogenating them, adding hydrogens to the fatty acid chain to re-solidify or thicken those what were completely unsaturated, like healthier oils, canola oil, vegetable oil, all those, right? So it's called partially hydrogenated vegetable oils. Big in different food industries, fast food, all those different things. It became a big, big thing. You went, oh, okay, we solved the problem. Cool, we can thicken them up a little bit. Partially hydrogenate them. There's a problem the way they do it. They're adding on the hydrogen. So where there was a double bond here, okay? So what they would do is here's the hydrogens in this normal situation of in unsaturated fat with a kink. It's got the hydrogens on the same side. Cis means same. They add hydrogens. In this case, when these were made, some of these hydrogenated oils, they're adding basically hydrogens. And in this case, there's hydrogens that end up on the opposite side of the two adjacent carbons that have the double bond, okay? And some of them can get rid of the double bonds altogether. They're adding the hydrogens, okay? So when they end up like this and they make this, the way that it happens to chemically be made is the hydrogens are added on two different ends, two different sides of the adjacent double bonded carbons. What that creates is a situation called a trans version of that fatty acid, okay? So notice these two, this one, if it's naturally that way, this is it already is, it's an unsaturated fatty acid, we call it a cis, unsaturated fatty acid. This is an isomer. Remember in chemical stuff we went over isomers? They have the same atoms, but they're arranged differently in space. And I gave you the example of ibuprofen, L-ibuprofen, that's the kind that's effective in our enzymes in our bodies. This is basically the trans isomer of that because the hydrogens are on two different sides. Because the hydrogens are not weighted on one side, there's one down and there's one up. Trans means, what does trans mean? Opposite, right? Other side. So on two different sides. So what it does is it restores the linear nature of the chain. It gets rid of the kink. So the cis double bond was once like this, right? They hydrogenate and now they're on two different sides in the situation. So now the kink is gone. It's straight up. So it went from that to that. And in these situations too, they will add hydrogens in multiple places. So hydrogenating them will making them thicken. Why will this thicken if it's like this? The trans takes the linear conformation. Why would that thicken this oil?
Because then you can stack it because the cake is gone.
Right, exactly. Now they can stack. Now they can stack. You just thickened it up. You plumpified it a little bit, okay? So, new problem. Body cannot break down trans fats. Your body, your enzymes, you have all kinds of different fat degrading or metabolizing enzymes that chink down the fatty acids and break them down. Well, it turns out when you got hydrogens like this, it is very hard to break that and energy-wise metabolize that and use it. So we have a hard time breaking those down. And they're thick and they're stacked, so they're more like a solid nature. Unfortunately, this man-made sort of situation and created solving a problem made a whole series of a horrible other set of problems. And that is these accumulate in your blood and arteries. And this is one of the number one things that's linked with heart disease, high bad cholesterol levels, hypertension, atherosclerosis, or plaques and hardening of the arteries, where they start to pack with cholesterol and fat and white blood cells and platelets, and they clog up the arteries so that the blood, the oxygen cannot get to the heart or to the brain or wherever it's going to go. They're linked with that specifically. So this man-made little solution, let's just thicken them up, just hydrogenate. Really bad. So scientists have been working on this for a long time and figure out, wait. These are linked with all kinds of things. And the body can't break them down. These thickened, unsaturated trans fatty acids. So now we know unsaturated fats are healthier than saturated fats. So if you're going to consume fats, which we all need to have some fat in the diet, you're going to want to have more of a proportion of unsaturated fats compared to saturated fats. I still eat, and a lot of very good, healthy, balanced, athlete-type people, they eat saturated and unsaturated. What you want to avoid is trans unsaturated fats, okay? That's really the most important. Saturated fats are linked with atherosclerosis, okay? And cardiovascular or heart disease, including heart attack and stroke. Perfect linear relationship with that. They are linked. The higher numbers of saturated fats or amounts that are consumed on the whole, looking at the whole population, are linked with atherosclerosis, heart disease, and stroke. What is atherosclerosis? This is where you get a buildup of plaques, shown right here, where fats themselves and cholesterol and other molecules pack into the vessel lining, and they start to make something called a plaque, or a thickening, in a sclerotic sort of a plaque. And it builds up, and the platelets in your body, they're involved in clotting, and other factors in your blood, see it as a site of inflammation. Now it's really categorized as kind of an inflammatory response. They all go, oh crap, what's happening? We gotta pack that up. Pack that up, that's not supposed to be there. Pack it up, add more fat, add more cholesterol. We call them lipid streaks, and then they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And you get platelets, and you get white blood cells, and you get tissue, and you get muscle, and all this other growth that sort of gets deposited right there. Darn it. I gotta plug in real fast. I didn't even realize this. Okay. There was a question though, I feel like, somewhere. Does someone have an atherosclerosis question?
tell you that
Oh, you're just gonna tell me that. What time is it? How are we? Are we good? Oh my gosh, it just goes by too fast. I'm sorry. This stuff is just so interesting that it flies by from you. I can't even get through everything. That's okay though, if we slow down, it's all good. We have plenty of time to, of course, do all this stuff. That's cool. Yes, Mom.
So saturated fats, these are like the natural hormones, like the animal fats.
Yeah.
Those are also that.
Yes, in general, yes.
Okay. In addition to
The trans unsaturated. Yes, ma'am. So, yes. Lots, if you have a diet that's high in saturated fats and low in unsaturated fats, that is unhealthy overall. Because we know it is linked with atherosclerosis. Now, not for every single person, but in general. Some people are more predisposed to atherosclerosis, cardiovascular disease, and high cholesterol already, okay? So if you block the supply of blood and oxygen to the tissues, that's how you have a stroke, and that's how you have a heart attack. We cannot get blood to those vital organs and tissues, like the heart and brain. So this is where I have Simone's answer to your question. Trans fats are even more harmful than regular saturated fats, and they're closely linked with heart disease and all those other atherosclerosis. So trans fats and saturated fats, they increase your bad cholesterol levels. So the bad is known as the LDL cholesterol. We're going to talk about that. We're going to measure those in lab, actually. We're going to do all that next week in lab. Now, the FDA is banning many regions around the world. In the United States, there's this big health concern over the last couple decades. Trans fats are very bad. So a lot of food companies, industries, even the fast food industries are starting to eliminate trans fats. They used to be in all kinds of snack products, baked goods, fried foods, fast food, all that stuff. They're still present in certain foods, should be avoided or minimized. And those are shortenings and solid margarines. Not good. I love fried chicken, sorry. So I can't completely cut that. I have it every once in a while. But things that are fried foods, a lot of times those are partially hydrogenated oils that they're using, like KFCs and the chicken places. And then processed foods like fried foods, snack foods, baked goods. I like all those things. All those things. So whenever possible, you have to try to eliminate and look on the labels and see. Usually now you can read trans fat has its own category, zero trans fat. You go, okay, good, zero trans fat, perfect. Many companies and fast food chains are starting to even eliminate trans. So there's a little, I had a hard time even looking in my food cupboard, like on stuff, there's no trans fats in most of the things that I buy, or in everything I buy. It's getting eliminated quite a bit. We did not finish the fat, so, oh well, that's fine. It is what it is. We'll pick up back with that. Write on your card if you could before you peace out what you got, what you didn't get, or you still need to work on a little bit more, or review more, because then I'll look at them this weekend. I will take your application questions, homework right here. And actually, before you go, I'm going to flip ahead, and I'm going to show you the application questions at the end. You can read them on your own, because we just covered this. I want you to do these, work on this, because this take-home message from today, compare and contrast dehydration and hydrolysis reactions, and what's the connection to saturated, unsaturated fats, what are trans fats, what are the most healthy, why. All of that was in this lecture, so that is application homework.
I'll do it.
Yeah? All right, have a great weekend. Study your witness file. I'll see you guys on Monday. Here. Let's put them up here.
Wait, can you go back to the slide with the application questions?
I'll text it to you.
You'll text them to me?
Yeah. Thank you. Very nice. Super interesting. Have a great weekend. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. No, sorry. Okay. There we go. Down over. All right, guys. Have a good rest of Friday. Have some fun. Get some studying in. Have a good weekend.
Do you want my printed out version?
Yeah, if you have it, that'd be great. Okay. I like to have hard copies of stuff. I just like reading them and looking at a store and saying,
Yeah, I realized this morning that we were, I think we're supposed to email you about it before.
yeah, no, it's totally fine.
I was like,
If you don't
oh,
email
crap.
me before, that's okay. I mean, I trust you guys to find cool stuff. You both found really cool stuff, so that was good. That's good.
And then the Instagram handle is on the top.
Oh, perfect, you wrote it. Awesome, thank you. All right, so we ended there. I will keep track of that. Thank you, nice job. I like that. Oh, I wait, got it. Okay.
I thought you would appreciate it.
I love it. I like that it's like painted too. It has a spray painted effect.